Hey everyone, welcome back to the next installment of the December Mania. In the last episode, we did the Ho and Weather trio in Pokemon Emerald, and those were some of the most powerful things I have ever ran with. Today, we will be doing a three-way race between the Sinnoh starters, Torterra, Infernape, and Empoleon. These runs are definitely going to be quite nice because they're all dual typing, and quite interesting typings with that. So let's get straight into the run, shall we? I'll start by covering what Torterra has to offer, and then we'll go to Infernape, then Empoleon, and then go on with the actual gameplay. All of the Sinnoh starters have different base stat totals, but Torterra is actually the lowest at 525, which is still pretty darn good. It's got 95 HP, 109 attack, 105 defense, 75 special attack, 85 special defense, and 56 speed. I don't know why they made some of the base stats not end in a 5 or a 0, but I guess they were just thinking, why not, right? And also, starting in Generation 4, no longer is the case where all grass-type moves are special and all ground-type moves are physical. Now it depends on the type itself, so now I can actually use physical grass moves if I want to. If we look at our level up moveset, we start with Absorb, Tackle, Withdraw, and Razor Leaf. We do not get Wood Hammer to start with because we would have to use a heart scale through the move relearner. And then after that, we can get Absorb and Razor Leaf again, Mega Drain, Earthquake, Leech Seed, Synthesis, Crunch, Giga Drain, and Leaf Storm. Getting Earthquake by level up is definitely really good, plus I can definitely see us relying on Curse for a good while. And starting in Generation 4, there are now 95 TMs to choose from, but the notable ones are Bullet Seed, Hidden Power, Giga Drain, Solar Beam, Iron Tail, Earthquake, Return, Rock Tomb, Secret Power, Energy Ball, Giga Impact, Rock Polish, which is basically another clone of Agility, Stone Edge, Swords Dance, Stealth Rock, Rock Slide, and Grass Knot. So yeah, we definitely get a nice array of moves to choose from. Now moving over to Infernape. Infernape of the three has the highest base stat total of 534, with 76 HP, 104 attack, 71 defense, 104 special attack, 71 special defense, and 108 speed. So Infernape is the living embodiment of a fast glass cannon that really cannot take a punch. Plus, I think Infernape has one of the coolest movesets of the three. We start with Ember, Scratch, Leer, and Taunt, and then throughout level up we get Mach Punch, which is a fighting type priority move with Stab, so that'll do some serious damage. And then at level 21 we get Flame Wheel, and then we get Feint, Punishment, Close Combat, Fire Spin, Calm Mind, and Flare Blitz. Honestly, Infernape is not the one you would think can learn Calm Mind, but somehow it does. That's going to be really good because in the Sinnoh games, you can only get Calm Mind in the Battle Frontier and the post game, so the TM for it is basically off limits. Plus, some notable TMs we get access to include Focus Punch, Bulk Up, which is also in the Battle Frontier, so just ignore that, Hidden Power, Solar Beam, Iron Tail, Earthquake, Return, Dig, Brick Break, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Rock Tomb, Aerial Ace, Secret Power, Overheat, Focus Blast, Shadow Claw, Stone Edge, Swords Dance, Rock Slide, Poison Jab, Swagger, Grass Knot, and U-Turn. So yeah, definitely a huge amount of moves to choose from. And last but not least, we got Empoleon. Empoleon is basically more balanced, but it does lean towards special attack and special defense. It's got 84 HP, 86 attack, 88 defense, okay, going up by 2 I see, 111 special attack, 101 special defense, and 60 speed. So we're barely faster than Torterra, which isn't that good, but who knows, maybe our good move coverage will make that not matter. Plus, Empoleon has the secondary steel typing, so we have a lot of resistances. We start off with Tackle, Growl, and Bubble, so unlike the other three, we only start with 3 moves. And then at level 11, we get Swords Dance, which is so frickin' early, that is nuts. And then we get Peck, Metal Claw, Swagger, Bubble Beam, Fury Attack, Brine, Aqua Jet, Whirlpool, Mist, Drill Peck, and Hydro Pump. And then via TM, we get Water Pulse, Hidden Power, Ice Beam and Blizzard, Earthquake, Return, Dig, and Brick Break, Rock Tomb, Aerial Ace, Secret Power, Steel Wing, Brine, Shadow Claw, Avalanche, Swords Dance, Rock Slide, Grass Knot, Pluck, and Flash Cannon. So yeah, all 3 of our contenders are going to have a lot of moves to choose from. Let's get on into the run, starting with Torterra. In this section of the video, we'll be going over the first gym leader. I then go to Professor Rowan, who lets us keep the Pokemon and asks us if we want to give it a nickname, which of course I'm going to name it. Why wouldn't I? And then, before I can progress, I have to go back, let my mom know I'm going to be leaving forever, and then I can go through the early routes. On Route 202, after letting Lucas show me how to catch a Pokemon, there are 3 mandatory fights on this route, so once all 3 of them are taken care of, I enter Jubilife City where Lucas stops me to give me a tour of the town, and then I go inside the little school, give the parcel to my rival Steve, and then here's a fun fact about Pokemon Pearl. For some reason, this is only in Diamond and Pearl and not Platinum. If you defeated the 2 school kids in there, they can actually give you the TM for Hidden Power. So that would be really good if you struggled with Rourke, but Torterra is not going to need that move. I then talk to the 3 clowns, say yes to all their answers, and then I can get the Poketch. This is mostly useless, although there is a dowsing machine on it if you need it, but I mostly just leave it on the time. And now it is time for our first rival fight. Steve leads off with Starly, and I go for tackle, doing less than half, and then it hits me with a quick attack. I hit it for another tackle. Looks like one more tackle will do the hit, but I instead go for Razor Leaf, which misses unfortunately, but the next Razor Leaf knocks it out. And now for the Chimchar. I always face the fire type starter in these runs, so I go for Razor Leaf by accident, doing so little damage, but for some reason I just keep going for it. I think the reason I probably kept going for it was because I thought I could get lucky crits, but then for some reason I go for Absorb, and now I'm at 6 HP left. So this time I actually go for Tackle, and okay, yeah, Tackle's not doing that much. But luckily Razor Leaf gets a crit, and I can move on from this fight. Man, that would have been real embarrassing, a Torterra getting his butt kicked by a Chimchar. And then I backtrack to heal at the center, and then I go through this route without any issues, and then inside the Orberg gate I get the HM for Rock Smash. However, before I can use this HM, I have to defeat Rourke, the first gym leader. So I enter the Orberg mine, and then right over here I can get an escape rope, which I use to get out of here. And then as soon as I escape rope out, I go straight into Rourke's gym, take out the first 2 gym trainers with Razor Leaf, and then on Gym Leader Rourke himself, he leads with a level 12 Geodude, which is a one-shot with Razor Leaf. Good to see. The next up is his Cranidos. It's a pure rock type, so it won't take 4 times effective damage, but that doesn't matter. Razor Leaf still gets the one-shot. And now for his Onix. The Onix is obviously going to be a one-hit with Razor Leaf, and then Torterra levels up to level 15 and gets a Rourke split of 10 minutes and 16 seconds. Alright, not bad. Let's see how the other 2 do. Let's start with Infernape. I go through the early routes up to Jubilife City without any issue. I skip Hidden Power because I do not need it right now. And then after I defeat the first rival battle, I go ahead and fight a bunch of the optional trainers here because Infernape is technically not weak to rock due to his part fighting type. I don't have a good move to defeat his rock types with, so I want to level up to level 16 to get Mach Punch, which won't be an issue because all of our starters are in the medium-slow experience group. So in the early game until level 30, we're actually the fastest experience group if you don't count fluctuating. And then I talk to Rourke to get him back to his gym, fight the trainers down here, and then I have to fight Rourke's remaining gym trainers, and I get just enough experience not to get to level 16, but now I'm at 15.5 levels. And then I can take out Rourke's team quite easily and get a Rourke split of 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Alright, now to see Empoleon. With Empoleon, after I give the parcel to my rival Steve, I actually fight the 2 school kids in here, and I'm actually given the TM for Hidden Power. I don't teach it right now because I want Hidden Power for later. And then I defeat the first rival battle quite easily, any optional trainers I end up fighting, and then I can defeat everybody in the Orberg mine, talk to Rourke, defeat his gym trainers, and then defeat Rourke back at the gym. And then during the fight, I now have the move Peck on my moveset, which I taught over Tackle. I didn't update the move yet. I tend to update my moves at the end of the battle, not during the battle. This is just in case I reset. And then at level 16, I now have Metal Claw. And at this point, I was having difficulty deciding what to teach, so I just decided to just scrap Metal Claw entirely due to the inaccuracies of the move. And then Empoleon gets a Rourke split of 13 minutes and 8 seconds. Alright, so right now, Torterra is in the lead, but the main reason it's in the lead is because the other 2 had to do training. Empoleon just had to go get Hidden Power, while Infernape needed to grind to get Mach Punch, so it's still definitely too early to tell who's in the lead. So now for this next section of the playthrough, we're going to go through Eterna Forest to Eterna City, defeat Gardenia, and then we'll go all the way to the 3rd gym leader to take out Maylene and then Wake right afterwards, since they're both the same level in this game. This is a section I like to call Chapter 2, the early game. How about this time, let's stick with Empoleon as we go over this section of the game. Rourke gives me the Coal badge, which, let me just tell you right away, badges are 100% useless in solo playthroughs except for progressing the story. The badge boosts are not a thing anymore, not just a glitch or anything, but like the 10% boost to attack or something like that, that's just gone entirely, so we're not going to rely on badge boosts anymore. And then I can backtrack to Jubilife City, help Lucas chase off some Team Galactic grunts, and then I head north and enter the Ravaged Path. It's basically just a small little cave-like area with some rocks you need to smash, and I teach Rock Smash to Bidoof. I have a Bidoof and a Starly for my HM users. This isn't all of the HM users though, these are just what I have for now. Plus in that cave, I could get the TM for Rock Tomb, which can help with the Mars battle coming up since she has a Zubat, but Empoleon's not going to need that move. Oh yeah, now that I see hidden powers on our moveset, be sure to guess in the comments which hidden power type Empoleon has. I'll reveal it once I actually use the move. Also, just to let y'all know, hidden power is now a special move no matter what type it is. And then I go through Floroma Town, defeat the Galactic Grunt in front of the Valley Windworks, defeat the Team Galactic Grunts harassing the Honey guy, and then the guys drop a key, and now I can enter the Windworks and free the place. But before I do that, I go in this house right here where this girl gives me the TM for Pluck, which I teach over Peck. It's basically a more powerful flying type move, but it also has the benefit of stealing the opponent's berries. So like if the opponent's holding an Oran Berry, I could use Pluck and heal 10 HP. Stuff like that. And then I defeat the Galactic Grunts up to Mars, and then take on the commander herself. She leads off with a Zubat, and the Zubat's not the hard thing. The hard thing she has is her Purugly. Don't let this thing fool you, Purugly is a very fast Pokemon. It outspeeds me, and then I go for Pluck and steal its Oran Berry. And then afterwards I can use Swords Dance to raise my attack by 2 stages, and then I go for Pluck, which almost knocks it out, but luckily Purugly doesn't have a good move to face a Steel type, so just because of my part Steel typing, I can win this fight pretty easily and deny the chance to learn Swagger. Now with the Valley Windworks free, I fight some optional trainers up to the Eterna Forest where I pair up with Cheryl. In this game, when you pair up with a second person in an area, they will heal your Pokemon for you after every single battle. So at this point, you could like do some extra training and not have to worry about potions. But also at this point, every battle, including wild battles, are a double battle. And this first set of double battles is quite tricky. Let me show you why. The main thing that makes it tricky is the Pachirisu. It'll oftentimes survive a hit, and if it uses Spark to paralyze you, you're going to be paralyzed for the entire fight. But luckily in this fight, it only ends up paralyzing the Chansey, which I don't care about, and then I can defeat the Bug Catcher right next to her pretty easily. The next set of double battles is just 2 Psychics who have 2 Abras with hidden power. They have hidden power fighting because it's super effective against Chansey. And then I get Cheryl all the way to the end of the forest. And also, she does not give you a Soothe Bell like she does in Platinum, so I won't be able to equip it to let my friendship grow faster for return, but that's not going to be a big deal right now. And then I go to this berry patch up here and get myself a Cherry Berry. This will help with the upcoming gym battle with the grass type expert, Gardenia. She leads off with a level 19 Cherubi. The first thing I go for is for a Swords Dance to raise my attack, and the only thing that Cherubi does is use Safeguard, which all it does is prevent you from being poisoned and stuff, but that's not Empoleon's strategy. And then on the Turtwig, 1 Pluck does the 1 shot. I level up to level 24, where I get the chance to learn Bubble Beam, which I teach over Bubble. Bubble Beam is a 65 base power water type move with the chance to lower speed. This was an MVP move in Gen 1. But then next up is the Roserade. It outspeeds and lands a Grass Knot, which does slightly less than half of my health, and then I use Pluck to steal its Citrus Berry, so I've gained almost all of my health back. Also, let me take this moment to describe Grass Knot, as well as Low Kick. Starting in Generation 4, Low Kick was changed to do weight-based damage, so the heavier the opponent, the more base power it has. That's how Grass Knot also works too. And then after the gym, I go in here to get the Explorer Kit because you're required to have this in your inventory in order to progress with the game. And then Cynthia shows up and gives me the HM for cut. I take out a bunch of Team Galactic grunts in the building nearby, and then I can take on the second commander, Jupiter. She, just like Mars, leads with a Zubat. I go for Bubble Beam doing the one-shot, but as usual, it's not her Zubat that's hard, it's her Skunk Tank. It goes for Bubble Beam doing more than half, it heals with a Citrus Berry, and then it hits me with a Night Slash dealing very pathetic damage. And then I hit Pluck on it, Night Slash does nothing, and then Empoleon just easily defeats the commander. And then right afterwards, as a reward for saving this guy's Clefairy, he gives me the Bicycle. This will be my main mode of transportation through the overworld. And then I can go south through Cycling Road, unfortunately hit a couple of people because I'm still not good at this. All of these trainers are avoidable, it's just you gotta be good at the bike. And then at the very bottom, Lucas gives me the Versus Seeker and the Dowsing Machine app for my Poketch. The Versus Seeker can help if I have to do extra training for somebody, or if I need to farm money, but I can definitely say I do not think the Versus Seeker will be helpful for any of these runs. And then just outside of Mount Coronet, I defeat a bunch of these optional trainers here just because they're all clustered. I can enter Mount Coronet, talk to Cyrus for a bit, and then I can emerge from the other side. And also, in this grass is where I used to farm for a B barrel, because I still need an HM user for Surf, Strength, Waterfall, and Rock Climb. However though, in Diamond and Pearl compared to Platinum, the chances of a B barrel here, instead of 20% in Platinum, they're 10% in Diamond and Pearl, so I actually do not catch my B barrel here, I catch it somewhere else. And then I can enter Heart Dome City, talk to Fantina outside the contest hall, get the dress accessory from Mother, and then right afterwards, I can attempt to leave the city, where the rival challenges me again, so this is Rival 2. He leads off with a level 19 Starly, not evolved for some reason, and then I go for Hidden Power, which does neutral damage. Not enough of a hint, I'll describe it later. And then I use Hidden Power on the Monferno, which is not very effective. And then I use Bubble Beam to finish it off, and I get to level 28, where I get the chance to learn Fury Attack, but this move is trash. Next up is the Roselia. Obviously Pluck will do super effective damage, and then finally is the Buizel. I go for Pluck, doing almost all of its health, leaving it in red bar, and then I just use Hidden Power to finish it off. You know what, I may as well just say it since I've already used Hidden Power. Empoleon's Hidden Power type is Hidden Power Dark. This is going to be my main solution to dealing with a bunch of ghost type enemies, plus to get Hidden Power Dark, you have to have 31 IVs across the board, so perfect stats and everything. So I basically just got Hidden Power for extra coverage. It's the only reason I got it. And then I can head east towards Route 209, and then before I enter Solaceon Town, I have to enter the Lost Tower. In Diamond and Pearl, this place is mandatory because at the very top floor, I can get the TM for Return, because in Diamond and Pearl, Professor Rowan does not give you Return, while he does in Platinum, so I have to pick up Return here, and then at the very top, I can talk to this lady right here, and get the HM for Strength. This is honestly a really weird place for Strength to be, but I'm not going to question it. And then I can get out of the Lost Tower and enter Solaceon Town, and at this point I can enter the Mart and buy some more repels for the rest of the game. Obviously, I'm going to have to come back later because the Sinnoh region has a lot of walking you have to do, but these repels will do for now. And then before leaving Solaceon Town, I have to enter the Solaceon Ruins. This place is known as the place you catch Unknown, but the main reason I'm here is because there is a rare candy down here. That's it, that's literally the only reason I come in here. That rare candy does not exist in Platinum, but in Platinum version you come in here for the HM for Defog instead, while in Diamond and Pearl, Defog is in the Safari Zone. And now I can head north towards Route 210 and into Route 215 towards Veilstone City. And also, you may notice there's a little house right there. That is the Moo Moo Milk restaurant. You can buy a bunch of Moo Moo Milk. They heal 100 HP, and they're cheaper than super potions. And you may ask me, why not just get them? Well, here's the thing that's so stupid. In Platinum version and beyond, you can buy Moo Moo Milk by the dozen. But in Diamond and Pearl, you can only buy one at a time. So it's actually slower to buy Moo Moo Milks in this game. So I just skip them and stick with super potions, because at least you can buy multiple super potions at a time. And then right at the very end of this route, I take on Ace Trainers Dennis and Maya. I choose to just do it in a double battle format just because I can easily take care of both of them at once. The double battle method is faster if you're able to take them on in a double battle. If you can't, you can fight them one at a time. Ace Trainer Dennis though can be difficult because in this game he has a Monferno. But here's the thing, the rain is almost always up on this route, so my Bubble Beam has a 50% damage boost to it, so I'm able to easily take care of their team members. And then when I reduce it down to just the Gyarados, and then I can level up to level 30 and enter Veilstone. Veilstone City is where the game corner is. If I want to, I can actually buy coins and get a whole bunch of useful TMs. The main notable ones are Rest and Swords Dance. In Platinum, also Hidden Power. I'm not saying Hidden Power for Pearl because you get that free one from the trainer house. And then I enter the Veilstone City gym, defeat the gym trainers that are there, and take on the fighting type specialist, Maylene. This is the second gym in a row where I have a type disadvantage. The first time was because it was a grass type gym. This gym is a fighting gym, and Steel is weak to fighting. So let's see how this fight goes. Maylene starts off with her Meditite. I go for Pluck, knocking it out in one hit. Next up is the Machoke. I go for Pluck again, and it does half, and then the Machoke wastes its time with Foresight, so I knock it out. But next up is her most difficult Pokemon, Lucario. But before that comes out, I have the opportunity to learn the move Brine on my moveset. This water type move does more damage when the opponent has more than half of its HP left. So I basically just give up on it because Bubble Beam is more consistent. And then on the Lucario, I go for Pluck and steal its Citrus Berry. The Lucario hits me with Bone Rush, which is like Bone Meringue, but it can actually hit more than 2 times. And then I go for Pluck again. The Lucario goes for Drain Punch, healing some of its health back. And at this point, I'm in Torrent range, so I actually go for Bubble Beam, doing extra damage, and I defeat Maylene's Lucario. But remember, before I can split, I gotta take on the next gym leader, Crash or Wake. In Diamond and Pearl, you can fight Maylene or Wake in any order you want, but 99% of the time you want to do Maylene first, because her badge allows you to use Fly. Because if you go all the way to Wake to fight him third, you'll have to walk manually to go fight Maylene. And that's just a huge waste of time unless I was running like a Clefairy or something, where I absolutely could not fight Maylene. And then I take on Team Galactic in a multi-battle with Lucas, and then right afterwards I can enter this little area right here to get the HM for Fly. Obvious, I can use it right now, but I'm not going to use it just yet because I still have to walk places, or I guess in my case, bike places. I go through Route 214, fight some optional trainers along the way, and then I head south towards the Valor Lakefront. Here's a neat little thing. In this area, you have to enter through this gate to pass through to Pastoria City, but you can actually talk to this guy here and get a free heal. So whenever I pass through, I always like to talk to him. And then I can go through the beach and enter Pastoria City. The first thing I do is immediately go left to Route 212. I go through this little muddy area right here to get a Pokemon Pearl exclusive rare candy. And then I can fly back to Pastoria City, and then the next thing I need to do is enter the Safari Zone. There are 2 things I need to get here. I need to talk to this one guy to get the HM for Defog. It's nice that they put him right here directly, and then in the Area 1 of the Safari Zone, which is basically the top leftmost corner, I can actually talk to this tile right here and get another rare candy. And then I can retire to warp back to the entrance. Now I can enter the gym, take out the gym trainers, and challenge the gym leader, Wake. He leads off with a level 27 Gyarados, which gets off an Intimidate. This Gyarados is the reason physical attackers have a hard time during this section, but then again I have Swords Dance to cancel it out. Then I get hit with 2 Dragon Rages, and I now have the move Return, which I got from the Lost Tower. Return knocks out the Gyarados. Will it knock out the Quagsire too? Barely, but no. But luckily Slam doesn't do that much damage. Wake uses a Super Potion, and a second Return knocks it out. Now for the Floatzel. It outspeeds and goes for Pursuit, doing little damage, and then I knock out the Floatzel and get an early game split of 56 minutes and 51 seconds. Alright, that was definitely a long section, but you gotta remember, Sinnoh is a long region to go through, so this is considered early game to me. So now let's go over the other 2 and see how they do at the major fights. Starting with Torterra. Just before entering Floroma Town, there's actually the TM for Bullet Seed, which I actually teach in the place of Absorb. I also got the Rock Tomb TM from the Ravaged Path, just before Floroma Town 2, north of Jubilife, and I can teach Rock Tomb to it as well. This will come very much in handy during the Mars fight, because as you can see here on the Zubat, I can use Rock Tomb to easily deal with it. Also, you may notice I now have Curse, which I learned at level 17 over Bullet Seed, so yeah, Bullet Seed was pretty short-lived. And then on the Perugly, I go for Rock Tomb, mainly just to lower its speed, and now I can start spamming Razor Leaf, because Razor Leaf has a high crit chance, which definitely comes through. So honestly, I think that might have been the first time in who knows how long where I use Rock Tomb specifically for the speed drop on something. Like, it's really satisfying when you do that. I free the Valley Windworks and go through the Eterna Forest quite easily, and here we are at Gardenia. As usual, she leads off with her Cherubi. I now have the move Bite on my moveset, which is a physical move in this game, so I just go for 2 bites on the Cherubi to knock it out. Also, I know I'm pronouncing it 2 different ways, I don't know which one is right. And then on the Turtwig, I go for Bite doing half, Razor Leaf does pathetic damage, and a second bite knocks it out. Alright, now for the Roserade. I gotta be careful because Grass Knot will deal neutral damage, but for some reason it just goes for Poison Sting. Like, it keeps going for Poison Sting, and then I finally get poisoned. Okay? And it's still using Poison Sting. That is so weird. Like, why was the Roserade just spamming Poison Sting? I'm pretty sure Grass Knot would have done more damage. I don't know. Maybe it detected crits or something? I don't know. Since Commander Mars was easy with some preparation, will Jupiter be easy too? On the Zubat, I go for 1 Curse, raising my attack and defense but lowering my speed, and then 1 Bite knocks out the Zubat. Now for the Skuntank. I just keep going for Bite even though it's not very effective, just because there always is the chances of a flinch, but it actually outspeeds me thanks to the Curse, so that was honestly just a waste of time. So I just switch over to Razor Leaf, which is physical in this game, so Curse does incorporate with Razor Leaf. And then I can defeat her and level up to level 26. And then on Route 207, just before entering Mount Coronet, I get this hidden rare candy right here. I did not get it with Empoleon because I did not need it. And then I go through Mount Coronet, enter Heartdome City, do the errands, and fight Rival 2. His first Starly survives a Razor Leaf and it goes for Double Team, which it keeps continuing to stack, but luckily Razor Leaf knocks it out. I gotta be careful because that Starly does have Endeavor, which puts you at the same HP as the opponent. So if the Starly had 1 HP, Endeavor will leave me at 1 HP, leaving me open to a Mach Punch from the Monferno. But luckily that doesn't happen, and then I knock out the Monferno in 3 hits, and the Buizel is obviously going to be a 1-hit with Razor Leaf. And then finally, the Roselia isn't going to provide any problems, even though it does take a while to knock out with Bite. But it doesn't matter, I still win. With Strength obtained, I go in the Solacean Ruins and get the rare candy, and then I can go north through Route 210 and 215, have no problems with Maya and Dennis, and enter Veilstone City. Maylene starts off with her Metatite, which is a 1-hit with Earthquake, which I learned via level up at level 32. Then on the Machoke, Earthquake almost one-shots it, and then it hits me with Brick Rake for not much damage, and then 2 more Earthquakes knock out the Machoke. Now for the Lucario. Lucario is a part Steel type, so it is going to be a one-shot with Earthquake. But remember, that's not the end of the split yet. The end of the split is with Crasher Wake. I enter Pastoria City, get the Route 212 rare candy, buy some Super Repels, take out Crasher Wake's gym trainers, and then I can challenge Crasher Wake himself. He leads off with his Gyarados, getting off an Intimidate, so the first thing I do is go for Razor Leaf, only doing a third, and then the Gyarados has Swagger, which basically gets my attack to +1, but I'm now confused. So that basically canceled out my Intimidate. That's nice. But then the Floatzel hits me with an Ice Fang, and I hit myself in confusion. I get hit with Ice Fang again, and I get my first reset of the run. Yeah, that's the main thing with Torterra's typing. It is 4 times weak to Ice. That is not good. So for the next fight, I now have a Persimberry equipped, so now if it uses Swagger on me, I can heal it off right away. And here's the main thing at this point. I want the Gyarados to go for Swagger to guarantee the 1-hits on everything. But luckily on the 3rd try, I get hit with Swagger, the Persimberry heals it for me, and I defeat the Gyarados with Razor Leaf. Then on the Floatzel, it hits me with Ice Fang, doing around half, and then 1 Razor Leaf does the 1-shot. And finally, his Quagsire is 4 times weak to Grass due to its ground typing, so I use 1 Razor Leaf, and then I get my 4th badge with a split of 59 minutes and 21 seconds. Alright, now we've got Infernape. With Infernape for Commander Mars, I also do get the TM for Rock Tomb to deal with the Zubat. And then for the Perugly, I have a type advantage on it, since Mach Punch is a fighting type move and will do super effective damage. Plus, it's a priority move, so it'll always outspeed the Purugly. Unless it uses Quick Attack, but I don't remember if it has Quick Attack or not. And then while I'm in the Eterna Forest with Cheryl, I'm in the wild and I actually catch a Baneri. The reason I catch a Baneri is to give me access to the Amity Square in Heartdome City. There are some useful items there that I will only need depending on which Pokemon I do, and you can only enter the place with certain species, and Baneri is one of them. Funnily enough, you could enter there with the first stage starter Pokemon, but not the final stage ones. They didn't allow you to do that till Platinum. But then in the Sinnoh remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you're able to enter there with any Pokemon you want. Honestly, they should have just had it like that from the start. I don't need to talk about Gardenia, do I? I'm literally a fire type in a grass gym. What do you think's gonna happen? But I will mention during the fight, I did learn the move Flame Wheel. I actually keep both Flame Wheel and Ember on my moveset, because Flame Wheel does physical damage while Ember does special damage. Sometimes if I'm on an opponent with higher physical defense, I might want to use Ember. So yeah, in the newer games, you actually have to consider keeping both physical and special moves depending on your opponent. I get the Route 207 Rare Candy, and I enter Heartdome City, completely destroy the rival, and then I can go in the Lost Tower, get Return and Strength, go in the Salacian Ruins to get the Rare Candy, and then I can go through routes 210 and 215 into Veilstone. Now is the time for Maylene. Funnily enough, both Torterra and Infernape will have type advantages here because Torterra had Earthquake for the Lucario, while Infernape has a Fire type move for the Lucario. Empoleon had no type advantage just because of it being weak to fighting. Just before I take on Maylene though, you may notice a change on my moveset. I now have Return taught over Ember, and in the place of Mach Punch, I now have the move Punishment. Punishment is kind of a weird move. It starts out at 60 base power, but it does more damage for each of the opponent's stat boosts. So for example, if the opponent uses a Swords Dance, which is +2 in attack, that's 2 stat increases, so that boosts the power to 100. It goes up 20 base power for every stat increase, and it maxes out at 200. But that's not the main reason I taught it. The main reason I taught it is because I need a Dark type move to take out the 5th gym leader Fantina who uses Ghost types. But we still have a way to go to even fight Fantina, because Infernape hasn't even taken on Crasher Wake yet. And he's the Water type specialist, so Infernape's gonna have a type disadvantage. Also especially since at this point, my moveset is comprised of entirely physical moves. And remember, like I said, the Gyarados has Intimidate. But before I take on Crasher Wake, I go into Amity Square with my trusty Baneri, and I go into this little house right here to get the Amulet Coin. There are these 2 trainers south of Heartdome City on Route 212. When you have the Amulet Coin and you knock them out in quick succession, they will give a lot of money. Around $10,000 per match with the Amulet Coin. And then once I've raised enough money, I go in the Safari Zone, get the Rare Candy and the HM for Defog, and then while I'm here, I can get a B-Barrel for my Surf, Strength, Waterfall, and Rock Climb usage. At this point, I realized I completely forgot to get Hidden Power for Infernape, which I was supposed to, so I go back to Jubilife City, get Hidden Power, and teach it in the place of Rock Tomb. And at this point, I can finally take on Crasher Wake. Infernape's Hidden Power type is Hidden Power Electric. This move comes very much in handy when you have a physical attacking Pokemon in Sinnoh that struggles with him and doesn't have a good solution for his team. If you remember back to my Platinum playthrough with Lucario, my first ever Platinum video, I had to use Hidden Power Electric because Lucario's moveset was all physical and it had no good move to take out the Gyarados. But then after I take out the Gyarados, the Quagsire, and the Floatzel, I get an early game split of 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 34 seconds. So now at this point, Empoleon is in the lead with Torterra 3 minutes behind due to it having a couple of resets, and Infernape is way in 3rd place thanks to the fact it had to grind for money. Hopefully that money will be worth it. I've done these runs a while ago, I can't exactly remember what the money was for, but let's just see if it was all worth it in the end. So now at this point, we're going to go over the mid game. We're going to be talking about the fight with Fantina, Byron, and Candace, like basically everything before the Team Galactic stuff. This is the chapter I like to call Chapter 3, the mid-game. Since we've already started with Torterra and Empoleon, let's continue with Infernape. After I beat Crasher Wake, I have to talk to this Team Galactic Grunt outside the Safari Zone, and I have to chase him off because he's running away from me. But as I'm chasing him, I get into a battle with Rival 3. Dang it, I'm supposed to be chasing bad guys here. Oh well, let's just fight him. He has a Starly level 26. Why did they not evolve his Starly? I have no idea. I defeat the Starly in one hit, get to level 38, and then on the Buizel, I just keep on going with Return. And now in the Monferno, I'm just spamming Return on this whole fight. And then with the rival defeated, I chase off the Galactic Grunt. Cynthia gives me the secret potion, which I have to fly back to Salacian Town and give them to the Psyduck on Route 210 by the Moo Moo Milk House. And then I can go through the foggy area of Route 210 and end up in Celestic Town. And while here, I can chase off a Team Galactic Grunt in front of the ruins here. And then Cynthia's grandmother gives me the tour, and she gives me the HM for Surf. But however, in order to use Surf, you have to have the 5th gym badge. So I have to fly back to Heartdome City, where I can take on the 5th gym leader, the Ghost-type specialist, Fantina. Her team is a lot better than in Platinum, but that's because in Platinum she's the 3rd gym leader. Oh well, anyway, she starts off with a level 32 Drifblim. I go for 160 base power punishment, and then the Drifblim goes for minimize to raise its evasion. So at this point, punishment would have done more damage due to the stat boost, but I just go for hidden power electric. And then on the Mismagius, I go for Flame Wheel doing half. It heals with a citrus berry, but the second Flame Wheel knocks it out. And now for the Gengar. I go for a 60 base power punishment, knocking it out in a single hit. That's good to see. And then as soon as I get out of here, Cynthia tells me to go over to Candelave City. But now that I can use Surf, there are a few things I need to get. I go to Route 212 and get the Chesto Berry here. There's also a Citrus Berry and a Cherry Berry too, but I don't need those. And then I can surf across the waters so slowly, and then I can get the rare candy here. And then I fly on over back to Floroma Town, where I head to the Fuego Ironworks. There's a maze here of arrow tiles, kind of like a Team Rocket hideout. But at the very end, I can get the TM for Flamethrower. Because fun fact, I cannot learn Flamethrower by level up, and I'm tired of using Flame Wheel. Plus, pretty soon, I'll be learning Calm Mind to boost my special attack, so I really need this move. And then with Flamethrower obtained, as well as Close Combat by level up, I can get the rare candy on Route 216 before Candelave City, and then I can enter the city itself. I heal at the Pokemon Center, save before this bridge, because Rival 4 ambushes me. He leads off with a Staravia, at least it's evolved now, and I knock it out with one Flamethrower. Now for the Buizel. I go for Close Combat, which is a very powerful 120 base power fighting type move, but it does lower your defense and special defense each time you use it, so you take more damage from things. And then his Monferno goes for Aerial Ace, doing half of my health. And then next up is the Heracross. One Flamethrower easily gets rid of it, as well as the Roselia. And then as soon as the rival's defeated, I can now go into the 6th gym, which is the Steel-type gym. In Pokemon Platinum, you actually have to go to the Iron Island first to get Strength, but since Strength was in the Lost Tower, that place is completely optional, so I just enter the gym right away. Half of the Pokemon here aren't even Steel types just because there's not that many Pokemon in the game. And then at the very top of the building, I can take on the 6th gym leader, Byron. He leads off with a Bronzor. The Bronzor can't hit hard, but it is super defensive. But luckily, it's not defensive enough to survive a Flamethrower. And then on the Bastiodon, I go for Close Combat because fighting type moves do 4 times super effective damage, and I knock it out in one hit. Finally is the Steelix. I really hate this thing's sprite in Diamond and Pearl because it literally looks like it's floating. And then I take out the Steelix in one hit for being a witch, and then I can get my 6th gym badge. So now at this point, Professor Rowan tells us we're going to go study the lakes, and then Lake Valor blows up. So now I have to go over there and fix things. Although I'm supposed to go there right afterwards, I actually forgot, so I just fly back to Celestic Town, buy some Max Repels, and then I can enter Mount Coronet, get this rare candy right here. And then in this lower room right here, you can get a few helpful things. You can get a Soft Sand to boost ground type moves by 20%, but I don't get that. I just get the Max Elixir this right here, as well as the rare candy. And then I go through the snowy routes quite easily, but unfortunately I get paralyzed on one of the random trainer fights, and this trainer's Hippopotas actually knocks out Infernape with Earthquake. Here's the stupid thing, in Generations 4 and 5 only, the chance to not move from paralysis was boosted from 25 to 50%, and then afterwards was lowered back to 25%. So whenever I run these games, paralysis is incredibly terrifying. So I have to let everything black out, and then I can make my way through the routes again, get revenge on that trainer who wronged me, and then while hiking through the snow, I can get the HM for rock climb. And then with all that trouble behind us, I can enter Snow Point City and take on the Ice-type gym leader, Candace. She starts off with a Snover. Due to its grass typing as well as its ice typing, it is 4 times weak to fire, so I take it and the following Abomasnow out. Here's the thing, both of them have the ability Snow Warning, so this whole fight there is Hail up, and then afterwards I can knock out the Sneasel, and then her Medicham. It survives a hit, but luckily I burn it while it just wastes its 1 turn going for bulk up, and then luckily the burn and the hail damage actually knocks it out, and I get a Candace split of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 38 seconds, still with 0 resets on the clock. Hopefully that'll be enough for it to catch up. Empoleon has a really easy time with Rival 3, as well as the next several routes. And then in Celestic Town, I can get the HM for Surf, plus I can even go into this building right here. There's this guy who will give you a pair of glasses, but depending on the time of day, he can give you something different. Since it is nighttime on my computer, he gives me the black glasses. This will boost Hidden Power Dark's damage by 20%. And then I can enter the Safari Zone, get my B Barrel, and now I can take on Fantina. Let's see how much a Hidden Power Dark boosted by black glasses is. It almost one-shots the Drifblim, and then it goes for Minimize. Uh-oh. My first and my second Hidden Power misses, while the Drifblim keeps on stacking Minimizes. It just keeps doing it over and over again. But luckily Hidden Power finally hits through, and I can defeat it. Then next up is the Mismagius. It outspeeds and goes for Shadow Ball, lowering my special defense, and then Hidden Power Dark does around half, and even though it healed the Citrus Berry, it looks like I can 2-shot it. And I am right. And then I level up to level 40, and finally is the Gengar. It outspeeds and goes for Confuse Ray. Luckily I don't hit myself, and Hidden Power one-shots the Gengar. And then I go around the region, get the same rare candies I talked about earlier, and completely destroy Rival 4. Now let's just skip ahead to Byron. Byron also indirectly is an advantage to water types, because in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, he does not have his Magneton from Pokemon Platinum, so he just leads with a Bronzor. I use Bubble Beam on it. For some reason, I did not teach Surf. I can't remember why. Maybe that comes in handy later. Anyway, once the Bronzor's knocked out, I use Bubble Beam to one-shot the Steelix, and the Bastiodon itself is weak to Bubble Beam. It lives in yellow health, and it just wastes its 1 turn to attack using Iron Defense. And with Empoleon, I actually do remember to go to Lake Valor, so here let's talk about Commander Saturn. He leads off with a Kadabra, which is very defensively weak, and at this point I have Return, so I use Return for the knockout, and then on the Toxicroak I go for Return doing less than half. It hits me with Revenge, putting me all the way down at 18 HP, so now I switch over to Bubble Beam because Torrent will boost my Bubble Beam by 50%. And then the Bronzor gets knocked out in 1 hit, and I win the fight. So afterwards, I have to go to Lake Verity to help chase off Galactic Commander Mars. Commander Mars is really not that hard in the second round, because at this point, your Pokemon are going to be way stronger than her. She's only really difficult in the early game, when there aren't many options. And then I can go through Mount Coronet, get the usual stuff, and I arrive all the way at Snow Point City to take on Candace. Also, you may notice I now am holding the Mystic Water. You can get this item in Pastoria City once you have the ability to use Surf, so I did go back to get it. Anyway, let's talk about the actual Candace fight. She leads off with a Snover, which actually resists my water moves, so I start off by setting up a Swords Dance while I get hit with a neutral Razor Leaf. I go for another Swords Dance, Avalanche does like 4 damage, and now I can start the return sweep. I one-shot the Snover, the Medicham, the Abomasnow, and the Sneasel, and Empoleon gets a mid-game split of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 43 seconds. Also with 0 resets. Very nice. Now let's talk about Torterra. I get my B Barrel from the Safari Zone, and at this point, I actually realized I forgot to help Lucas get his Pokédex back from Team Galactic, so I ended up coming all the way down to Crasher Wake's gym without the HM for Fly. So I actually have to walk back, help him out, and then finally get Fly. So yeah, that was a waste of time. And then I can defeat Rival 3, chase off the Team Galactic Grunt, get the secret potion from Cynthia, and go all the way through Route 210 into Celestic Town. Also, you may notice a frame rate drop with Torterra. I guess I was having computer issues that day because I was having encoding overload errors in OBS, so I actually had to make separate OBS recordings with Torterra. So that's the reason it may look like that for some of it. So now we can talk about Fantina in actual 60 FPS. She leads off with Drift Blim, one bite almost takes it out, but I just keep spamming bite and things eventually work out. Also, I just noticed on my top screen here, part of the bottom screen is actually still showing. I did not crop this properly, so yeah, I did realize that and I did fix it for the other two, but Torterra's is going to look a bit weird. And then on the Miss Magius, I keep hitting myself in confusion, and I eventually knock myself out and get another loss. But luckily I'm able to win on the second attempt, albeit at pretty low health. I get the rare candies like before, and then I go back to Route 214 and get a hidden heart scale. I actually want to relearn a move with Torterra, and I'm willing to bet you can guess what it is. It's not Wood Hammer, I actually relearned Synthesis. The reason I couldn't learn it on my moveset earlier was because I needed all of my move slots at the time, so I'm like, I do need this move, I'll just get a heart scale and relearn it later. So then with Synthesis on my moveset, I can take out Rival 4 and Canalave, although the Roselia does try to put up a fight by putting me to sleep. And then I can go in the gym and take on Byron. On his first Bronzor, I set up my first curse, I get hit with Hypnosis, which in Diamond and Pearl is actually 70% accurate. They fixed this in Platinum. So yeah, just for this one game, Hypnosis is actually good. And then after one curse, I go for Razor Leaf, which unfortunately does not one-shot the Bronzor. So I go for a second curse while he heals, and then I misclick and go for a third curse. I get hit with another Hypnosis. I still outspeed just because the Bronzor is that slow. And then once I wake up, I'm able to take it out. And then on the Steelix, I go for Earthquake, which actually one-shots it thanks to all the curse setup, as well as the Bastiodon, because Bastiodon is not only 4 times weak to fighting, but also 4 times weak to ground moves. I do the Team Galactic Lake stuff without any issues, although Mars does nearly give me a reset. And then I go through Mount Coronet and head north to Snow Point City. Alright, it is time for Candace. Before I take on Candace though, I enter Snow Point to set it as a Fly Warp, and I actually pick up a second TM for Earthquake. The main reason I get this is because I will end up deleting Earthquake later, so I'm going to need the TM back to reteach it. I will say though, this gym is going to be super terrifying for Torterra, just because it is 4 times weak to ice. But let's see how the first attempt goes. She leads off with her Snover, I go for Razor Leaf doing a third, it hits me with Leer, so then now I go for Earthquake, knocking it out. I go for Razor Leaf just to make sure Earthquake does the one shot. Next up is the Sneasel. Sneasel is very weak defensively, so one Earthquake destroys it. Alright, so far so good. Next up is the Abomasnow. I go for Earthquake, doing more than half thanks to a crit, a Citrus Berry heals it back to normal, and then Grass Whistle misses. Grass Whistle is just another sleep move, but luckily it is very inaccurate. It has the same accuracy as Sing, I believe. And then Abomasnow goes for a full restore, and now I realize that Earthquake is only doing a third. So at this point, I tried going for Crunch, which I learned by level up at level 45, but unfortunately Torterra gets another loss. On the next attempt, I get to the Abomasnow again at 36 HP, but unfortunately Grass Whistle puts me to sleep, and then I get hit with Swagger by Abomasnow. That kind of gives me the idea. What if I have to win thanks to Swagger strats? On the third attempt, I get to the Abomasnow with near full health to survive a Wood Hammer, which does massive recoil damage, and then an Earthquake almost knocks it out, but then I get hit with Grass Whistle and things just go south from there. I'm just going to skip ahead. It takes me until 11 resets into the run. I now have a Citrus Berry on my Torterra to heal some of my HP back. I want the Abomasnow to use Swagger, so I have enough attack to knock it and the following Metacham out. So yeah, Torterra definitely had to rely on luck strats there. And then Torterra defeats Candace with a split of 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 3 seconds. Yeah, these splits have definitely changed for the worse. And Polyon is still in the lead by around 6 minutes, but Torterra is just so far behind, I don't think it can do anything to make up ground, but you never know. The grass and ground type is really good for the Elite Four, but we'll see. So now in this section of the game, we're basically going to cover everything up until before the Elite Four. So this chapter is what I'm going to call Chapter 4, the late game. So now that we've started splits with Torterra, Infernape, and Empoleon, I'd say for this next section, let's stick to the person in the middle. Let's go to Infernape. When I talked to the rival at Lake Acuity, it was at this moment I realized I forgot to do the Lake Valor, Lake Verity stuff like the others did, so I go do those real quick. And then I fly back to talk to him where I see that he lost to Commander Jupiter. So now at this point we have to begin the long Team Galactic hideout in Veilstone City part of the game. I get the key from one of the rocket grunts, and then I can enter the place through the basement. So yeah, let's just skip all this stuff and go straight to the battle with Cyrus at the end. This is our first battle with the boss. He leads off with a Murkrow, and the first thing I do is go for Flamethrower, knocking it out in one hit due to it being a first stage evolution. Next up is his Golbat. I just keep on going with Flamethrower, but unfortunately this Golbat survives and it goes for Air Cutter, but luckily it doesn't do that much damage and I can knock it out from there. And then on the Sneasel, this thing is an Ice type, so it's weak to Flamethrower. And then I completely destroy Cyrus's team quite easily. And then right after Cyrus, in order to free the Lake Trio, I have to take on Commander Saturn again. Although he's still very easy like last time, so there's really no need in covering this fight. And then right afterwards, at this point, I have to go through Mount Coronet to the Spear Pillar. So I fly to Orberg City, go buy some more repels and potions and stuff, and then I can enter Mount Coronet, where I eventually climb to the top. And on my way up, there's this little area right here where there's a rare candy. That rare candy is not there in Platinum. And then just before I make it to Spear Pillar, I now have Calm Mind on my moveset. So yeah, in combination with Flamethrower and Hidden Power Electric, I'm going to be doing some serious damage real quickly. So this will be interesting to see. Will Infernape's Calm Mind or Empoleon's Swords Dance be better? So now at this point, Cyrus has summoned Palkia, so now in order to stop him, I need to take on Jupiter and Mars. And I have my rival to help me out, but he leads off with a useless Munchlax, so I have to just hope that it eventually gets knocked out and he can send out something better. Sometimes when I'm so desperate, I actually purposefully knock out the Munchlax just for him to send out something else. And then I finish off the fight quite easily, the Lake Trio stop Palkia from destroying the universe, and then Cyrus gets mad and challenges me to a fight right away. I'm not able to save either, so if I lose this fight, I do have to fight Mars and Jupiter again. I also tested this, even if I black out, I still have to fight them again. So anyway, he leads off with a Honchkrow. I go for one Calm Mind to boost my special attack. It goes for Dark Pulse instead of Drill Peck for some reason. And then one Flamethrower is able to knock it out. Okay, so far so good. He's got 3 more though. Next up is his Gyarados. It cuts my attack, but that doesn't matter. I'm using special moves. Hidden Power Electric completely destroys Gyarados. And then next up is his Crobat. I go for a Flamethrower doing almost the one-shot, but all it does is just deliver a Cross Poison. And then on the Weavile, one Flamethrower just melts it away. And I've defeated Cyrus, ran away from the Palkia like a bitch. And then I can fly back to Pastoria City, heal up at the guard's place, and then I can go through this route right here and get to Sunnyshore City. This area has the last gym in the game, so now we are going to take on the final gym leader, Volkner. He leads off with his level 46 Raichu. At this point, I am now level 57. I go for Flamethrower instead of setting up, and one Flamethrower destroys the Raichu thanks to a crit. Next up is his Octillery. I misclick and go for Flamethrower doing less than half, and the Octillery luckily misses Octazooka. I keep using Flamethrower because I'm not paying attention to the game, and then the Octillery just uses Bullet Seed. Like, I swear, something is weird about the Diamond and Pearl AI. I don't understand it. And then once the Octillery is knocked out, Ambipom is sent out, and I just completely one-shot it with close combat. And then next up is the Luxray. It survives a Flamethrower, it paralyzes me, I can't move, it hits me with Thunderfang, I'm still paralyzed, luckily Thunder Wave misses, and I knock out the Luxray. Oh boy, that was close to being my first reset. So now I can head on north, then Jasmine from Olivine City gives me the HM for Waterfall, and then I can head up north to Victory Road. I heal at the Pokemon Center first before going in. There are a lot of mandatory battles in there, but before I go in there, I actually now fly back to Veilstone City to buy coins. This is what the money's going to be used for, so the grinding for money was necessary. I go here, and get the TM for rest. I actually do need rest for at some points in the Elite Four because Infernape really cannot take a punch that well due to its low defense and HP, so I will be needing this move. The Game Corner is the only way to get rest in this game. So now I can go in Victory Road. There are a lot of mandatory fights in here, including this first trainer who has a level 48 Blissey. If you don't have a physical move, you are in for a world of long, insufferable pain. I once came in here with only special moves. It took 25 turns to knock that thing out. So yeah, even if you have a weak return, just use return on it. But luckily I had close combat. And then there's 2 rare candies in here. The first rare candy is here amongst these boulders, and the second one is in this secure little area right here. And then I have no issues with the rest of the Victory Road trainers, and I exit Victory Road and enter the Pokemon League at around 2 hours and 24 minutes. However, since you do have to fight your rival before entering the Elite Four, I will make my split at the end of the rival battle. So let's see how Rival 5 goes. He leads off with a level 48 Staraptor, and Staraptor has Intimidate, so it lowers my attack. I go for close combat, and then it lives in low health, but then the Staraptor just goes for Steel Wing for some reason. And then I go for Calm Mind, it hits me with Aerial Ace, almost knocking me out, but at this point I should be ready to sweep. Flamethrower knocks out the Staraptor, and then next up is the Floatzel. Hidden Power Electric, thanks to a critical hit, knocks it out. I'm not sure it mattered, but let's just assume it did. And then on the Snorlax, it has high special defense, so I have to use close combat. And luckily, despite the Intimidate, I still knock it out in one hit. And now is his own Infernape. Man, this thing's Diamond and Pearl Sprite is bad. I go for Hidden Power on Infernape doing half, and then its own Aerial Ace knocks me out, and Infernape has its first reset. Unfortunately, I have to black out because I accidentally walked on the tile that triggers the battle, so I forgot to save. So I have to black out, and now at this point, since I've already reached my minimum level before rare candies, and I'm clearly struggling right now, I use all of my rare candies possible to get to level 73. And at this high of a level, I just completely destroy everything. And Infernape defeats Rival 5 and gets a time of 2 hours, 28 minutes, and 16 seconds. Okay, now let's see how the others do. Let's start with Torterra. Throughout the Galactic Hideout, I don't have any problems with any of the grunts, and the first battle with Cyrus is almost always easy, so I just completely destroy him. And while I'm going through Mount Coronet to spear Pillar, I have a new move on my moveset. I teach Over Earthquake, and now I have Rock Slide. This will be my main key to defeating Cyrus at the top, because in all of the fights you fight Cyrus in, both in this game and in Platinum, his whole entire team is weak to rock moves. Here, let me prove it in action. He leads off with his Honchkrow like before, and I go straight away for Rock Slide, which has 75 base powered 90% accurate rock move, and it one-shots the Honchkrow. The Weavile is scary because it outspeeds and goes for Ice Punch, and then I live on 1 hit point left, and then Rock Slide does not knock it out. Oh no. Luckily, he just uses a super potion, so I use Synthesis. Although, now that I think about it, I probably should have just kept going with Rock Slide, but then the Weavile just goes for Night Slash like an idiot, allowing me to live again. Okay, if I win this, this will be funny. And then on the Crobat, it goes for Bite, and I lose. Yep, you know what that means. I have to fight Mars and Jupiter again. Now I'm back at the Weavile. I go for Rock Slide, it lives at like 2 HP, it heals with a Citrus Berry, but luckily on the turn it attacked me, it didn't even go for Ice Punch. Like, I legitimately think something's weird about the Diamond and Pearl AI, like, I just do not understand it. And then on the Crobat, I go for Rock Slide doing 3/4, and then I get hit with Confuse Ray. Uh-oh, that's not good. And then I get hit with Air Slash and get another loss. It was at this point I actually chose to black out to see if I could rematch Cyrus without fighting Mars and Jupiter again, and I can definitely tell you the answer is no, so I just reset and warp back here as if I never did that. So yeah, Torterra, despite having Rock Slide, is definitely suffering. I think Torterra would be doing better if it was a Grass and Rock type, because at least I can get the same type attack bonus from it. Alright, let's see how the Weavile goes this time. It goes for X Scissor, doing less than half. I hit it with Rock Slide, and it still lives in low health. And then I was expecting him to use a Super Potion, but he doesn't, and just hits me with Ice Punch again. Dude. Alright, it was at this point I was getting desperate, so I used a couple of my rare candies early to get to level 55. I'm hoping the next damage rounding threshold will allow me to one-shot the Weavile. Yes, I am. I one-shot the Weavile, but then unfortunately I start to slowly get destroyed by the Crobat, and I keep getting flinches, and I get another loss. This is why it's really awful if you have to lose to Cyrus, because you have to fight Mars and Jupiter again. So honestly, if I were to ever do this again, I should probably train up a bunch more levels just to guarantee the one-shots. But luckily, 15 resets into the run, I'm able to one-shot the Crobat, and finally is his Gyarados. I go for Rock Slide, it does half, I get a flinch, finally, and then I can knock out the Gyarados. Man, that was rough. As soon as I defeat Cyrus, I immediately replace Rock Slide with Earthquake. I only needed Rock Slide for that one fight. And with the same type attack bonus move Earthquake on my moveset, I can completely destroy Volkner's team. I get Waterfall from Jasmine and head up to Victory Road. I go through the place with no issue, and I eventually arrive at the Pokemon League building. So now I can face Rival 6. Hopefully I at least don't get a reset on here, but to be honest, those resets on Cyrus just cost so much time it's not even funny. On the Staraptor, I one-shot it with Crunch thanks to a critical hit. I'm at level 62 by the way. I misclick and go for Crunch on Heracross, which it resists due to it being part fighting. So when I realize this, I go for Earthquake, but the thing is, Bug also resists ground, but luckily I get a critical hit with Earthquake. So now on the Infernape, I go for Earthquake and it does the one-shot. So next up is the Floatzel. It outspeeds and goes for Ice Fang, doing slightly less than half I'd say total, and then Earthquake leaves it in red health. It goes for another Ice Beam, I live in red health so I use Synthesis. So now it just goes for Ice Fang again, please don't freeze, thank you. And I can defeat the Floatzel with Razor Leaf, and then I level up to level 63, and then I use Earthquake on it doing slightly less than half, so at this point I have to keep using Synthesis to keep my health high. But then eventually I do knock out the Snorlax as well as the following Roserade, and I defeat Rival 5 with a time of 3 hours and 23 minutes. Oh my god, that is bad. I've finished Platinum playthroughs faster than that. But before we talk about the final 5 trainers, we gotta see how Empoleon does with this section of the game. I pretty much have no problems with the entirety of the Veilstone hideout and all the way up Mount Coronet. However though, on the Mars and Jupiter fight, I now learn the move Drill Peck, which I teach in the place of Hidden Power. This move will really come in handy in stack with Swords Dance. I don't update my moveset on the overlay yet because I don't know if I'm going to get a reset on Cyrus or not like Torterra did. And then on the Honchkrow, I set up 2 Swords Dances. On the Honchkrow, I set up all of my Swords Dances, so that way I'm going to deal maximum damage possible, and then I use Return on the Honchkrow. The Gyarados, which uses Intimidate on me, so now I'm only doing +5. The Weavile. And the Crobat. Okay, the fact that it had no resets, this is pretty much just a 2 Pokemon race. It's either going to be Empoleon or Infernape that wins. So I chase off Team Galactic and I eventually make my way to Sunyshore City. I go for Bubble Beam, doing slightly more than half, and then the Raichu hits me with Brick Break, not doing that much damage. Then on the Luxray, I go for Bubble Beam, it gets a crit, but then it goes for Crunch, which doesn't do that much like usual, and then I knock it out. Next up is the Ambipom. At this point, I just decide to just keep going for Bubble Beam, and then the Ambipom gets off a nasty plot, which raises its special attack by 2 stages. That could be bad if I let it live, so I have to knock it out quickly. And then on the Octillery, I go for Drill Peck doing a 3rd. The Octillery hits me with Charge Beam, which has a 70% chance to raise its special attack by 1 stage. So it does get slowly more powerful each time. But then when the Octillery decides to heal, I just go for a Swords Dance and just spam Return on it. And then while I'm doing that, it hits me with Octazooka, which does lower my accuracy, but luckily I'm able to hit through it and land all my returns. So you want to know the reason I never taught Surf? It's because when Jasmine gives me Waterfall, this is going to be Empoleon's best physical water move. So that was the reason I never taught Surf, because I would have to go to the move deleter to get rid of it for Waterfall. So I just deal with Bubble Beam the whole time, which to be honest, didn't really cost me much time. Some things might have been 1 hits instead of 2 hits, but I don't care. I go through the Victory Road area with no problems at all, although at a bunch of trainer fights I do end up in red health, but at least it didn't result in any resets. And now it is time for Rival 5 one last time. The Staraptor as usual sets up an Intimidate, so at this point I go for Waterfall because Staraptor does have close combat, which I don't want it using, but The AI is just stupid in this game. It goes for Aerial Ace. I have no idea why. And then on the Infernape, I go for Waterfall, knocking it out in a single hit. So then next up, it sends out Heracross. At this point, I'm just pretty much knocking out almost everything, so I don't even bother setting up and just go for Drill Peck, which does 4 times effective damage to the Heracross. And then on the Floatzel, I go for Return, leaving it in yellow health. Ice Fang does like 5 damage, and I knock out the Floatzel too. And then I knock out the Snorlax with a few hits, as well as the Roserade, and I defeat Rival 5 with a split time of 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 56 seconds. Okay, so at this point, Empoleon is still in the lead by 14 minutes compared to Infernape. Both of them have 0 resets, by the way. Although Infernape did lose on the rival, that wasn't a reset, that was a blackout. I had to black out and teleport back to the center because I forgot to save there. And then Torterra just had so many problems with Cyrus, like, it was just unbelievable how many problems he had. The main problems were the fact that it couldn't one-shot things, and things were constantly outspeeding it. 56 speed is just awful. But now it is time to go over the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. The first Elite 4 member is the Bug-type user Aaron. He leads off with a Dustox. I go for Earthquake because it is not a flying type. It lives in red health and it lands a super effective Bug Buzz. He goes for a full restore as I use Crunch, which does half, and then the second Crunch knocks it out. Okay. Next up is the Beautifly. This thing is a flying type. So I just keep going with Crunch, I do 2/3 to it, it hits me with Psychic for not that much damage, and the Beautifly is down. Next up is the Vespiquen. I go for Crunch only doing 1/3, and then the Vespiquen uses Defend Order, which raises its defense and special defense by 1 stage, and it uses Attack Order too to raise its offensive stats too. But luckily he doesn't use a full restore, and I am able to eventually knock it out. Then on the Heracross, I go for Synthesis to try and heal some of my HP back. It hits me with a not very effective Stone Edge, and then I go for Earthquake doing less than half. It misses Mega Horn luckily, that would have hurt. And then on the next turn it goes for Close Combat, which luckily I am not weak to. And then he goes for a full restore, and I eventually knock out the Heracross, as well as the Drapion right afterwards. That's not even a bug type, it's a poison dark type. Infernape has a very clear and distinct advantage in this fight. This is the bug type Elite Four. I have Flamethrower. Everything dies to Flamethrower. I guess Close Combat too for the Drapion, just because it would do the most effective damage, but still. On Empoleon, I set up Swords Dance on the Dustox twice, and the Dustox just uses Double Team both times, but luckily the Waterfall just doesn't care about that and just knocks out the Dustox. And then everything right afterwards is an easy one-shot, mostly thanks to Drill Peck. Next up is the second Elite Four member, Bertha, the user of Ground types. Her team is very, very bad in Diamond and Pearl. She leads off with a Quagsire, which its only attacking move is Mudshot. If you use a flying type here, it can't even damage you. I found that out during my Charizard livestream. And then the Wishcash is also 4 times weak to grass, so I knock it out in 1 hit. And then right afterwards is a Sudowoodo. This thing is not part ground type, so it is only regular super effective. It survives and it goes for Hammer Arm, which doesn't do that much and lowers the Sudowoodo's speed, so I knock it out. And now next up is the Hippowdon. It sets up a Sandstorm due to Sandstream. Razor Leaf does half to it. It heals with a Citrus Berry, healing a lot of its HP. Also, Citrus Berries work differently than they do in Gen 3. Instead of a flat 30 HP, it heals 1/3 of your overall HP. So they are really, really good. And then I knock out the Hippowdon and the Golem right afterwards and easily finish off Bertha. Infernape might have a tough time here because I do have a type disadvantage. However though, I am level 74 since I used all of my rare candies. On the Quagsire, it just uses Protect when I try to use Flamethrower, so I just try and set up some Calm Mines while the Quagsire uses Double Team and tries to set up a Sandstorm. But I am able to land a Flamethrower, although it does live in red health sadly. And eventually, the Quagsire does go down after it stops being a troll, and the Wishcash goes down shortly afterwards. Next up is the Hippowdon. I go for Flamethrower, it actually does the one shot. And now she sends out Golem. This thing does resist Flamethrower, but due to all the Calm Mines I used, I go for it anyway. It unfortunately survives, but it just goes for Brick Break instead of something like Earthquake. So I knock out the Golem and the Sudowoodo right afterwards in a single hit. With Empoleon, I set up some Swords Dances on the Quagsire and it goes for Dig. Oh, it might not have been Mud Bomb it had, it was probably Dig. It might have both, I can't remember. Anyway, I knock out the Quagsire and the Hippowdon, and next up is the Wishcash. I knock it out very easily, and the Sudowoodo goes down in one hit too. Next up is the Fire-type Elite Four member, Flint. Although in Diamond and Pearl he doesn't have many Fire types, I do think sometimes his team is harder because he does have type variety. With Torterra, I knock out the Rapidash with one Earthquake, and now he sends out Drifblim. I go for Crunch, doing 3/4 of its health, and then it goes for Ominous Wind. Luckily it does not get an Omni Boost, and then it just goes for a full restore while 2 more crunches knock it out. Next up is his second Fire type Infernape. I go for Earthquake, delivering the 1 hit, and then next up is the Lopunny. I attack it doing 2/3 of its health, and then it puts me in low health, so I have to use Synthesis. Also, you need to be careful, this Lopunny does have Mirror Coat. If you're using a special attacker, be careful on that thing. And now next up is the Steelix, whose sprite I hate so much. I go for Earthquake doing 2/3, it goes for a useless Rock Tomb, but I still outspeed it and I'm able to defeat it with Earthquake. With Infernape, we're fighting fire with fire. On the Rapidash, I go for a Calm Mind while the Rapidash bounces in the air with Bounce. It hits me, and fortunately it does not paralyze me, and then after +2 Calm Minds, I use Hidden Power, and while the Rapidash is in the air, I just use another Calm Mind, I get hit with Bounce, and I'm still not paralyzed, thank God. And now at this point, Rapidash is going to use a full restore, so I use this chance to set up another Calm Mind. So now I think I'm pretty much stocked up enough, so I go for Hidden Power Electric to one-shot the Rapidash. And then on the Lopunny right afterwards, I one-shot it with Close Combat. I level up to level 75, and now is his Infernape. I go for Hidden Power, and then it outspeeds with Mach Punch since it's a priority move, and it critical hits me. So now Infernape gets its very first reset. Its first reset was a critical hit. Luckily that doesn't happen on the second attempt, and I defeat the Infernape and the Steelix and Drifblim right afterwards. Do I really need to talk about Flint with Empoleon though? I'm just going to do it anyway. I one-shot the Rapidash with Waterfall, the Infernape outspeeds me and goes for Flare Blitz, which does quite a decent amount of damage, but I still live in green health. And then I can defeat the Lopunny, the Steelix, and the Drifblim quite easily, despite me being burned for this fight, and I end up winning at 69 health. Nice. Next up is the 4th Elite Four member, the Psychic-type user, Lucian. He leads off with a Mr. Mime, which loves to set up Reflect and Light Screen if it lives, but luckily Torterra is able to one-shot it with Crunch. Next up, he sends out Metachamp. This thing is only neutral to Crunch due to it being part Fighting type, so I go for Razor Leaf. It hits me with Drain Punch, not doing that much, and then it decides to use Fire Punch right afterwards. It uses a full restore. Razor Leaf is still doing a third, so then after I use that Razor Leaf, I decide to go for Synthesis, which I was correct in doing. This thing has Ice Punch. But luckily, since I'm an Overgrow, the Razor Leaf does 50% more damage and I knock it out. Hopefully this is good. The Alakazam outspeeds and goes for Focus Blast, which misses, and then I'm able to use a Razor Leaf. It's a good thing I heal too, because that Focus Blast definitely would have knocked me out. And then I take out his Alakazam, the Girafarig, and the Bronzong. Although the Bronzong does take a while due to how defensive it is. Now for Infernape's turn. I start off by using a single Calm Mind while the Mr. Mime uses Thunderbolt. Luckily it doesn't paralyze me, then it goes for Light Screen. This isn't good, so I decide to just keep setting up Calm Minds, and then once I get to +3, I decide it's better now or never, so I go for Flamethrower. It unfortunately lives, but luckily it burns, so the burn is actually able to kill it without it wasting time with a full restore. Okay. And then on the Alakazam, I go for Close Combat just because it's a physical move, and it actually knocks it out in one hit despite being a fighting type move. Then on the Girafarig, I use a neutral Close Combat to knock it out, and then the Light Screen wears off just in time for the Bronzong, because now I can use Flamethrower and completely destroy it. But he still has one Pokemon left, which is the Metacham. I go for Close Combat, which does less than half, and then it hits me with Ice Punch, and it leaves me at 9 HP left after a crit. Okay, maybe I should have gone for Flamethrower there. I really did not play good back then. Like, oh my god. Before we move on to the champion Cynthia, we still have Empoleon to talk about with Lucian. I go for a Swords Dance on the Mr. Mime, it hits me with Thunderbolt for super effective damage, and now I can use Waterfall to knock it out in one hit, along with the following Metacham, Alakazam after it failed to do much damage with an Energy Ball, and unfortunately on the Bronzong, it lives in low red health, but luckily the Citrus Berry puts it at a full restore range, so then I can knock it out without any worry of that, and then the Girafarig is quite easy as well. Now we're almost done. It is time to talk about the champion of Sinnoh, Cynthia. Cynthia leads off with a level 61 Spiritomb. The first thing I go for is Earthquake, which leaves it in red health. The Spiritomb can't hit that hard, but it is very, very defensive. I just keep going for Earthquake until I eventually knock it out. Next up is her Milotic. I go for Razor Leaf, which does 2/3, and then it hits me with Surf, doing okay damage I'd say, and then a second Razor Leaf knocks it out. You know, a critical hit would have knocked it out in one hit, but I'm not that lucky. And then next up is her Pokemon Pearl exclusive Gastrodon. It does have very high special defense and defense, but it's 4 times weak to Razor Leaf, so one Razor Leaf does the job. Next up is her Roserade. One Earthquake is able to knock it out, and then the Lucario right afterwards is a one-shot with Earthquake as well. Although it does outspeed me and go for its own Earthquake, but it doesn't even do that much. Finally is her ace, Garchomp at level 66. It outspeeds and goes for Brick Break, leaving me at 58 HP. I go for Earthquake, doing slightly less than half. That's very concerning. It goes for Brick Break, and I use Synthesis after surviving at 21 HP. And then afterwards it goes for Dragon Rush, doing decent damage. I then get flinched, get hit with another move, and then I land a Crunch on Garchomp. It heals with its Citrus Berry. Alright, this is coming really close. After an Earthquake, Torterra lives on 6 HP left, and my own Earthquake knocks out the Garchomp, and Torterra has beaten Pokemon Pearl with a time of 3 hours, 11 minutes, and 13 seconds, with 15 resets at level 74, and a game time at the Hall of Fame of 7 hours and 8 minutes. Alright, clearly this thing is not winning, so let's see how Empoleon and Infernape do. Let's start with Empoleon, who's in the lead. One of the main advantages of Spiritomb on Cynthia's team, both in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, all it knows are just average attacking moves, and Spiritomb cannot hit that hard, it's just a defensive wall. This thing is the perfect opportunity to set up stuff like Swords Dance and Calm Mind. And once I set up, I knock out the Spiritomb, the Gastrodon, the Garchomp in one hit with Waterfall, and I knock out the Lucario, the Roserade, and the Milotic, and Empoleon defeats Cynthia with a time of 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 21 seconds, with 0 resets at level 74, same level that Torterra finished at, and a game time at the Hall of Fame of 6 hours and 4 minutes. Now for Infernape. I did one reset upon starting this fight because I forgot to equip a Chesto Berry, because during this fight I'm going to do the Resto Chesto strat, because I'm not going to have enough HP to get past the Spiritomb, because I need to set up all 6 of my Calm Minds, and obviously by the time I do that, I'm going to be at such low HP, something on our team's going to defeat me. So as soon as I completely set up, I can use Rest in case I need to heal. And then once I fully set up on the Spiritomb, I one-shot the Spiritomb with Flamethrower, and then on the Gastrodon, I go for Flamethrower because Hidden Power is going to deal 0 damage to it since it's Hidden Power Electric. It survives in very low health due to it having very high special defense, and it just goes for Muddy Water, and then I'm able to defeat it quite easily. The next up is the Milotic. I defeat it in one hit, which is impressive because Milotic has very high special defense. And now is the Garchomp. I go for Flamethrower, it does almost all of its health, it lives, but then the Citrus Berry puts it out of heal range, I'm left at nice HP, and then luckily I'm able to outspeed and go for Flamethrower, knocking it out. And then the Roserade I obviously don't need to mention, as well as the Lucario since it is weak to fire. And Infernape has beaten Pokemon Pearl with a time of 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 35 seconds, with 2 resets at level 76, so 2 levels higher than the other 2, and a game time at the Hall of Fame of 6 hours and 44 minutes. So yeah, we have a clear winner. Just like with the Hoenn starters in the Pokemon Ruby versus video, slight spoilers, Swampert ended up easily destroying the others, and this is clearly the case here. Honestly, I like to put this on the fact that Empoleon gets Swords Dance at level 11. That is absolutely nuts. and I was able to have a very good setup move, because Swords Dance is way better than Calm Mind, because Calm Mind you have to use 6 times to max out, while Swords Dance you only have to use it 3 times. Plus Infernape had to save up money for rest for the champion, because of how physically and specially Braille it is. And Torterra was just bad all around because it had a very terrible moment at Cyrus, because it wasn't able to do successful one-shots. You know what though? If I ever do redos in Pokemon Pearl, I think the #1 priority redo should be Torterra. I should probably get like 5 or so extra levels, even though that'll take more time. It will help make Cyrus consistent. I don't think it would be enough to let it beat Empoleon or Infernape, just cause it didn't really set up that much outside of the early game with Curse. So these results are going to stay as it is. And if we take a look at our leaderboard, Empoleon now takes first place away from Staraptor, and Infernape follows behind Staraptor, but it is 2 minutes faster than Charizard surprisingly, so these two performed quite similarly, and Torterra is not exactly in last place, because last place is for Slacking, just because Slacking had to rest every other turn due to its stupid ability, although it has a high speed stat, but forget it, that thing is just weird. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. The next video for the December Mania series will be Pokemon Platinum. We will be doing the Sinnoh legendaries Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. That'll definitely be fun to do, and I can talk about even more differences between Pearl and Platinum. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and be sure to follow my socials or support me through YouTube memberships or Patreon. Links are down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.